So hello and welcome. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the president's withdrawal, President Trump's decision and announcement to withdraw troops from Afghanistan and Iraq. And what I'm going to do first is play what I think is a remarkable segment by the acting Secretary of Defense. What I'm going to do first is play it through once, and then we'll go back and over the important statements. And I'm going to explain why I think that this is both a remarkable statement and important, the importance of each segment and what it's signaling and what I think it means. So let's do that. I'm going to begin. Let's roll the tape here. And so let me play this segment.
With the blessings of Providence in the coming year, we will finish this generational war and bring our men and women home. We will protect our children from the heavy burden and toll of perpetual war, and we will honor the sacrifices made in service to peace and stability in Afghanistan, Iraq, and around the world.
Now what I'm going to do is play that over, and we'll go over each one of the segments. Just give me a moment here.
With the blessings of Providence in the coming year, we will finish this generational war.
With the blessings of Providence in the coming year, we will finish this generational war. Now, Trump is not going to be in office after January the 20th. That's what's going to happen. And I think the reality is he knows that. I'm going to explain that a bit further later. But I think he knows that. And I think that the purpose of his statement, of the acting Secretary of Defense, and let me say, I don't even know who this person is. Never heard of this person. I don't know his name. And I don't even think it's important. What's important is that the president fired his Secretary of Defense, who was opposed to this, pullout. This warmongering Secretary of Defense, who is opposed to this. Now let's continue.
And bring our men and women home. We will protect our children from the heavy burden and toll of perpetual war.
We will protect our children from the burden of perpetual war. That's a powerful statement. That's a powerful anti-war statement. The burden of perpetual war. You could not have had a more definitive statement by a Secretary of State if it was a leftist president who'd been in office. Don't kid yourself. This is an out and out anti-war statement. And I think it's absolutely remarkable. And it says a lot here. Let's finish this, go over this last segment.
And we will honor the sacrifices made in service to peace and stability in Afghanistan, Iraq, and around the world.
We're not ending our commitment to peace and stability. The United States, as a major superpower, as still the most important superpower in the world, has that role to play to ensure peace and stability in the world. That is an important part of what the United States can do in a positive way. There are many negative things about imperial power. Don't make any, not making any excuses for it, but there are positive things. And the statement there says, we're not walking away from the world, but we're going to bring our soldiers home. We're going to bring our men and women home. Now, I think what's interesting about this, what's interesting about this statement, is that you can see that Trump fired all of these people that were standing in the way of this were keeping this from getting done. And in a way, he's losing the election, because that's what this is. This should tell you that he knows he's lost the election, and now he has freedom. He has a freedom to act now that he hasn't had until now. And he's going to do things that he said he would do. He's going to honor commitments that he said he would honor. Now, I know there are people on the left, and good people. I'm going to talk about people like Graham Greenwood, for example, who I think is a very good person, who have called this a kind of phony pullback. I don't think so. I think this is as much as he could do, given the short window, the limitations that he has, that there's 2 months, and he's going to start a process that's going to be very difficult for the incoming president to reverse. Because if he does, he will make clear, the new president will make clear which side he's on. So that part we're going to need to see. But I think this is real. And I think my own theory about this, I've thought about this, and I think that this is just something, although some people on the left criticize Trump for not having pulled out earlier, but I think in a certain way his hands are tied by all the battles that he had to face, but also some of the battles, unnecessary battles he created, certainly. No question about that. And there's certainly lots to criticize about actions, say, in Yemen, the use of drone warfare and drones in general. I think those are legitimate criticisms. So now, what's interesting is the opposition that has come up and where it's come from. And when you know it, so much of this opposition is coming from the liberal press. The liberal press has gone bonkers. And we'll go over this. Give me a moment to set this up. Here's an article in CNN, an opinion piece, but you know, if it's CNN, that this kind of opinion, this is talking about the way the ruling class thinks about this. This is the way the political class is thinking about this. And it says Trump's Pentagon takedown makes the U.S. vulnerable during the transition. Right. And then this statement here, how the Esper, the outgoing defense secretary, warned against withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. No kidding. Of course, these people were opposed to it. But let me read this. He says, and this is by a guy named David Andelman, and he has the requisite credentials, establishment credentials, including he was a foreign correspondent for the New York Times and CBS News in Asia and Europe. Okay, so he says, while much of the world has been preoccupied with the president's refusal to acknowledge his 2020 election loss to Joe Biden, Donald Trump has been building blocks in a way that, if successful, could have a significant impact on America's security abroad and safety at home. On Monday, the Pentagon issued a warning notice to theater commandos to begin a further substantial drawdown of U.S. forces from both Afghanistan and Iraq by January 15th, 5 days before Trump will leave office. And then he talks about the new appointments, make certain as much negative dirt that he can dig up about them. But he says, what do these new appointees have in common? Each of them is likely willing and prepared to implement Trump's military goal of withdrawing U.S. troops around the world. While Trump, who spent years slamming U.S. involvement in endless wars, has announced drawdowns in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, thousands of U.S. troops are still deployed in the region. Then he talks about how the situation in Afghanistan is fraught. In a quarterly report to Congress on October 30th, the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction reported that the average daily enemy infiltrated attacks in Afghanistan were 50% higher this quarter, July-September, than last quarter, and above seasonal norms. So they're talking, okay, we're getting, who knows, it may be 50% above what? What level? Who knows what level? And then it says that a U.S. troop withdrawal could pave the way for the Taliban to return promptly to power. Well, what do we do? Stay there forever? And then it says this would only create a bigger headache for the Biden administration. That's right. It says the costs of pulling U.S. troops out of volatile regions prematurely to what? Could drag the U.S. back into war all over again. Oh, really? This would be a horrific burden on the Biden administration, especially given the coronavirus pandemic and its economic fallout. So what this person is saying, we're just going to have to go back. We may just have to go back in. Doggone if there's any excuse, any reason. And then he closes, this is not the time for the U.S. to let its guard down and abandon conflicts that will only pose a new threat to our national security. Even it's being done largely to fulfill a Trump campaign promise. Yeah, he made that promise. He's fulfilling that promise. It's what the American people want. And these warmongers, they don't want to let go. And let me show you another one, another example of this. And this was in the BBC. The BBC, right? Of course, the BBC, they're supposed to tell us what we're supposed to be doing. U.S. troops in Afghanistan, allies and Republicans alarmed at withdrawal plan. Alarmed. And yes, senior Republicans and U.S. allies have voiced alarm at the announcement that a large number of American troops will be moved from Afghanistan and Iraq. And it goes on to say, the head of NATO warned of a very high price, and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell called the plan a mistake. Yes, these warmongers. And this brings me to why I think that Trump has done this now, when his hands aren't tied anymore, because these kind of warmongering scumbags like McConnell, he's had to fight these people too. He's had to fight everybody. So I think people on the left who are saying, why hasn't Trump done anything till now? The institutional powers that has been up against, and on so many different fronts, including the fake Russiagate, the fakeness of that, all the attacks in the media, the impeachment, all this stuff he's had to deal with, but also the own goals with coronavirus. Don't get me wrong on that. He made some major own goals there. But I think it's important to point out how everyone all of the institutions in the U.S., the ruling elite, the ruling class, the military industrial complex, and the elected ruling class are opposed to this. And this is why it's so difficult. These people do not represent the people of the United States. These are people and a power that will do what they want. And let's face it, we do have somebody that has, for all of his faults, and I'm not making excuses for them, but he's had the courage to stand up to these people. And I think this is an important event. The acting Secretary of Defense, Christopher Miller, I saw his name there. That's a brave statement. This is a brave action, because these people know the forces that are aligned against them to stop this. And as you can see by that talking head for the establishment, this guy right here, this CNN opinion piece, which is just a mouthpiece. This guy is a mouthpiece for the war machine, the perpetual war machine. And that's what it is. Don't kid yourself. These people get back in and they're going to say, oh, it's just only for the emergency. And we'll never get out. These wars, and they'll find other wars, other regime needs to regime change, pressing regime change needs that are all justified on phony basis. So I think we need to appreciate that. We finally had a president who's had the courage, for all of his personal faults and all the stupid things that he said, and in many cases, the things that he's done, this is the right thing. This is bold and it is brave. And I want to point out that Trump does know. And I'm wondering, he knows he's going to be leaving office. He knows it. He knows what the reality is. But I'm wondering if the continuing of doing this challenging the election, is simply to buy time to take moves like this that will be difficult to turn around, to make bold moves that need to be made, that are in the interest of the American people. I hope we see more of this. And for example, I hope we see that this president pardons Edward Snowden as one example, that he pardons him. And he's made statements about that. And wouldn't that be a stick in the eye? A stick in the eye of the warmongering ruling class to go out and to have done that. So let's see. And you know, the National Security Agency, all these people, CIA, National Security Agency, all of these, the Department of Justice, all these people who desperately want to get at Snowden. That would be, I'm just hoping for it. Let's see if he does it. You know, and it wouldn't be out of his character to do it. That would be another major thing that could be done here. But I hope, one, the people on the left are cheering this. I know the people that are poo-pooing this, but I think you need to step back and take a look at the context and the limitations and how difficult it is and the forces that are aligned for war, for perpetual war. And that this is brave. This is bold and it's brave. And any left-wing president, you would have trusted that person to do the same thing. And they would have faced the same obstacles from the perpetual war machine. And so we'll see if there's anything else that's bold that's coming. Because this is a bold president. And I think we can see on his way out, part of this is, yeah, he wants to make things difficult for Biden. He hasn't forgotten what they did to him on the way in. With General Michael Flynn, that was a travesty. And I think in part that was done to keep this from happening, for the war machine to keep these wars going. So I think this is an important story. I don't think it's gotten quite the attention, but I think it's the one part of what I think is going on. This is challenging the election, is in part to give cover for actions like this, and two, to impede. There is an intention to impede the incoming president. He wants to get back. You know, you can You can say that for what it is. You can treat that for what it is. So we may see more of this. There's still 2 more months. This president could do a lot. And he has the possibility of, maybe we'll see a lot more positive things that will come out. I'm hoping for it. It would be in his character. So we'll see. So thanks for watching. So appreciate that. And we'll see you next time. Bye.